Hello and welcome to Unwarranted Music Opinions. I'm June Lindberg here with Brian Courtney.
Hey.
And Chad. Yeah, how long have you been doing this show? Can we sum up the number of years? It's been almost 3.
No, it's been longer than that.
Really? It's been longer than May of 2018?
And Chaz Jenkins.
It's Chaz Jenkins.
Everywhere I go, everywhere I see. Okay.
Oh, that one? You're going to quote that one?
Yeah, it's a good song. And it's a sequels episode of the show, which means we chose albums by artists or bands that we had already talked about at some point previously.
Either past or future.
You did say that once, didn't you? You did say that unironically once.
Yeah.
I like how the beginnings and the endings of the show are just like displays of your complete ineptitude at hosting or doing a podcast. You just fight the length of time we've been doing it.
I think I've gotten worse, is what's happening.
You have. You started
so
so strong in the first season and have just slowly declined over
It's because
time.
I'm comfortable now.
Yeah. So I decided to go back to the band that I was
Obsessed.
extremely obsessed with, still am. That's
Still gay.
Team Dresch.
Still queer.
Still queer, still listening to Team Dresch. Not a lot has changed. And I decided to do their second and final record, Captain My Captain. Team Dresch only had a couple of albums out in the 90s. And we talked about Personal Best previously, an album which I absolutely adore for its themes, for its instrumentation, for its vocal performances, for the songwriting. And Captain My Captain, sophomore record just a couple years later, or maybe in the very next year, was more of the same, but almost like more of the same with a couple added bonuses. Because when I think about it, if I try to compare the two records, it's so unbelievably difficult. But I would almost say that they improved between the two records. They're both absolute masterpieces, in my opinion, and both albums that I adore.
Calm down.
Dial it back. Come on.
But Captain My Captain, the more I listen to it, it's incredible. It's fantastic. So before I go rant and rave about everything Team Dresch wrote and sang and performed and just did in general, I will kick it over to you guys to inevitably disappoint me.
Okay. It's better than Personal Best. For one reason. June, what is that reason that this album is better than the first one?
Something dumb like how the vocals aren't buried.
Yes!
Or something.
I can hear the vocals. Fucking finally. Oh my god.
Who are the two vocalists, June? Donna
Dresch and Kyle Wilson.
Correct me if I'm wrong. In this one, it's just one vocalist. They don't switch off from.
No, they switch off.
They just sound so similar. I could not for the life of me. I could distinguish them in the first one. I can't in this one. It sounds.
It's funny. That's the reverse. I started to pick up on the differences on this album. The two songs where the biggest difference was. I'm pretty sure there are two different vocalists on "Don't Try Suicide" and "Musical Fanzine." Pretty sure that's one and then the other. I think
Good
Donna
point,
is on Suicide.
They call back in the chorus. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Donna is on the "Don't Try Suicide" track, and then "Musical Fanzine" is sung by.
No.
Oh, is it reversed?
Other way around.
So
Kyle Wilson has a slightly higher voice. She writes a little bit more punky, poppy songs. The slightly lower voice, a little grungier, a little.
Who's got the super nasally voice? One of them is very nasal. I'm pretty sure. I think it's Donna because she's on Musical Fanzine, right? She's got a very nose voice. I
don't think she has a nose voice. She just has a slightly deeper voice than Kaya does. I can't hear nasaliness in that song at all. I don't know where
it might just be me.
Coming from.
So we're back. Queercore, riot girl, post-hardcore goodness.
You've seen the Rim page.
Yes. I am new to it. The production is fantastic. So much better. They clearly have improved on all fronts of the production. The instruments and vocals sound fantastic. The guitars are crunchy, distorted, and guttural in that just hardcore goodness. The bass is percussive and comes in when it needs to, and you can hear it in the mix. The drumming is great, but the vocals, thank fucking God the vocals are better produced this time around, because I think just on all fronts this album is better than the last one. Lyrically, emotionally, I think songwriting, they both are the same. I don't think one is better than the other. I think they're pretty consistent in that regard. But I was so happy when I listened to the first song and I could hear the vocals. That was the biggest disappointment.
I'm sorry, hold on. Not to cut you off. You don't think it's nasally when I love my Uncle Frank? I feel like she's really up here.
It
Look,
sounds
I don't
like
know.
well, it
Not
sounds
at
like
all.
no, it doesn't sound nasally.
She's like, I love my Uncle Frank.
Whoa, calm down.
I don't know if it was.
I wouldn't call it nasally. It sounds like, and I think this is purposeful, it sounds like she's running out of breath like throughout the album. And I think it's because she's going the distance, because it's very emotional and powerful. The biggest crime of Personal Best was that the vocals were so under the mix. It was so sloppy, and I was too easy on it. It's a crime against humanity how badly produced those vocals were, because there's some great lyrics on there that you can't fucking hear. Now you can.
I just think you're dumb, because I think you can hear them, and I think you're just not used to like vocal production that isn't like super clean and spiffy, and you don't like.
You can't hear a goddamn word on Personal Best without the lyric sheet. You can't hear shit.
That's you.
No, it's not.
You.
No, it's not. Because I could listen to this.
fair.
I listen to this the same way I listen to Personal Best, mostly through speakers, and it's a distinct difference.
I agree that there's a difference. I think that it's a valid just pet peeve to have, like that particular vocal production issue that you have. For me, it doesn't bother me that much. But again, that's talking about.
It's never bothered you. You are on record so consistently that I've teased you about it. If the vocals are unlistenable, you are just having the best time. The more you can't hear them, the better you enjoy the album. Like, your score goes up. Like, I need a chart, like velocities in music. Like, if you look at this chart, we have on this side, the less intelligible the lyrics are, the higher June's score goes up. You know, that is.
It just never plateaus. Like, it's ever continuous.
Because what upset me so much is that I really loved a lot of the lyrical content on that, and it's a shame when you can't hear it in the music. But now you can, and I think lyrically this album is even better than the first one. I mean, there were some hard hitters, but I feel like some of them just either maybe too cryptic or just not punchy enough. Here, though, they pull out all the stops. I mean, self-reflection, dealing with prejudice, some amazing lyrical songs, including Uncle
They definitely
Frank.
get far more personal, you know what I mean? Which I didn't think would even be possible from the first one.
Uncle Frank, Don't Try Suicide, I'm Illegal, just to name a few, are so gut-wrenchingly powerful, and the vocal performances are just strained, and you can tell that they're giving it all they've got, because it's coming straight from the fucking heart.
Not to mention all the instrumentation underneath, the many phases that the songs will go through, which is something I enjoyed about their last record too. I feel like the post-hardcore, guitar passages, basically taking punk songs through multiple phases, right?
Yeah.
And really honing in on that and having dynamic guitars and drumming really helps the whole album.
I think the guitars sound even better this time around than on the debut. I mean, they sound fantastic. I cannot get over how well the guitars sound.
Especially on the newer repressing of both of their records, listening to those, the drums and the bass are so much more prominent in the mix. And it's just fantastic. Like, the production and the instrumentation are just as top-notch as they were, if not more, than Personal Best. Again, proving that this band being written off as just like, I don't know, it bothers me when this band is like, oh, they're, fine, but it's not like they're great musicians. Like, no, they're fantastic musicians, actually. And actually the songs, even the ones that are like 2 minutes long, or like most of the songs on this record are like 3 minutes at most.
Case in point, like
there's a few 4 minutes. Songs.
Case in point is like 107, right? 107 is a song has a lot of phases on it. Like, goes through a couple of different change-ups. There's three or four.
Like, It's very rare that there's like a verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, simple punk song.
It definitely
structure on these songs
makes a lot of sense that this group was active in the 90s in Washington. You can hear that. I mean, you can hear the sounds coming out of that scene here.
We made the comparison in the first time we talked about them. Like, I wouldn't call it grunge, but there's a little bit of grunge influence. And maybe in the music or the not the songwriting, but the vocals too. I wish there was more guttural screaming on this one, because I loved it on the first one, but it's not here on it. Like, there's one time where she like screeches, but it's not like the yo that she does on the first song of Personal Best. And I wish that was on this. It would be perfect if that was on here too, because
it's like a little bit of emo influence there.
Yes, just a smidge emo. A smidge emo.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have a lot of different influences in the work. Something I kind of realized after listening to this and then listening to the first one again, the songwriting is definitely less verse chorus than the first one, but that's kind of made up for by guiding these loose, somewhat linear thoughts with songwriting that's catchy, right? Guitar riffs that are catchy, drum fills that are catchy, to kind of prop up the less catchy vocal passages, I guess, if that's a good way to explain it.
No, I kind of disagree. Because even while the songs are less consistently formatted, I actually see that as a positive. The fact that many of these songs don't follow a standard verse-chorus formula, it just makes it so that every verse, every bridge, every little section of a song is super catchy on its own. And all of these songs, I mean, they all stand out and they all have incredibly memorable moments within them. They didn't really need a verse, chorus, bridge, chorus type of structure to achieve that. So they get super adventurous with the instrumentation, with shifts and transitions within the songs. There's just a lot to love here from a musical and compositional standpoint. Even if you aren't like connected emotionally with what they're saying, this is still just a fantastic, like, 90s punk rock record with, again, fantastic instrumentation and songwriting and performances all across the board.
One of my favorite things with just albums in general is like amazing closing runs, like last couple of tracks. Fucking perfect final 3 tracks, I just want to say. There is for the 1-2 punch of I'm Illegal, the musical fanzine, and musical fanzine being like the best teen Dresch song, just one of the best songs we've heard for the show in general. Amazing song, musical fanzine. I'm Illegal is a touching, like, kind of calm. It's almost a calm before the storm compared to the track that follows it, because musical fanzine just has this swell of emotion towards the back half of the lyrics. Also, just how raw and I don't know, just real it is. It's just very real. Just struck a chord with me in a way I didn't really expect. Coast that and song in that I mean, basically the climax of the album into the final song, Remember Who You Are, which I think is another fucking great track to just coast the track, close the album out. It's a little more groovier than the previous 2 tracks, whereas musical fanzine is like this climactic guitar riff driven, like the back half to the part I'm talking about is just this and then an amazing transition to this like almost an indie rock passage, really, in the middle of this album.
Yeah.
And then getting into the last track, which sort of does the same thing with a more, I think, a groovier little bass line towards the end as well, and lyrics that are just as raw and as real, although maybe not as I don't want to say despondent, but as upset. It's a much lighter note to end on. But those 3 tracks right in a row.
I don't even think that musical fanzine is necessarily depressing. I think that what musical fanzine is a mission statement for Team Dresch in general.
Yes.
Because
that opening line, says it all.
But what they're basically saying with that song is, we wish that we had music and art that we could look up to that would help us. We can see all of these people who are struggling, who don't have voices they can go to for help. There's nobody singing or writing or whatever about their experiences. There are things they need to hear to get better. And so basically Team Dresch on the song is basically saying, we exist to be that voice. The point of us singing at all is so that whoever's listening out there can say, hey, maybe I'm not alone. And that, resulting in a much happier and better queer community. I mean, several times on this record, suicide is mentioned. Like, there's a song on this record that says, don't try suicide. And
one of the more emo tinged cuts.
The best lyric of this entire album is when she says, when I think how I don't want to live, I think about all the freaks and how I don't want to miss this. Best line, best fucking line, because that says it all, where it's like, I might be struggling right now, but I can't give up for all the other people who are struggling out there. I mean, that is such a great fucking line.
It's just so real too. Just the delivery on that song is just something else. Like, I don't know.
One thing I love about that song is how almost juvenile the words that need to be said are, because they start the song and they have a couple characters that are introduced. The wig-wearing boy named Psychic Al, who's in school, and then there's
the other girl, I think.
The girl at the beginning of the song where she wants to embrace her, however the world will change. Letting the monster stay under the bed, the monster being a metaphor for just their queerness. And then, maybe finding a secret place to hide your copy of Ruby Fruit Jungle, which is this old, like, classic lesbian novel. So they're, like, painting a picture of the people who need support in the world in general. And they're saying, hey, you say what he needs to hear.
Yeah, and then they go into that.
And then they go into what they need to hear. What do they need to hear? Queer sex is great. It's fun and
funner
shit.
than shit. Yeah, it's so awesome. It just talking about it is just like, God, like it's just you really have to hear the song to understand the urgency of the delivery, because if you honestly, I think if you just read these lyrics, you would think they were like a little bit cringe, but when they're being sung, like, I am fully fucking attentive to the vocalist, because like there's no other thing to listen to, because like it's in the guitars, like the driving guitars underneath, like it's just very urgent. When you're listening to it, it's very urgent. It requires your attention. Like it wants to be heard, and it does everything it possibly can to try to grab your attention. Her vocals here in particular are the loudest they are in the whole album. They're very much up and above the guitars, which still kind of roar behind her. Love that song so much. Amazing song. Just fucking crazy good song. Anyway, yeah, it's an amazing last run of tracks.
Like, it's this simple message where they're not going into anything more complicated than, hey, you are okay and deserve to be happy. Yeah. Like, the world is, maybe the world is trying to tell you that you're, fucking, some kind of. But guess what? They're wrong. Don't worry about it. Jesus is dead and God doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's what I mean. Like when you say it, like, and when you read it out loud, you're like, it's so. But like when she's saying, I promise you, if you listen to the track, like when she's saying it, there is absolutely nothing like, I guess, like eye-rolly about it. Because I remember a while ago you were telling me about these lyrics, and I was kind of rolling my fucking eyes. I was like, I mean, yeah, I get it. I'm not trying to shit on you for loving the song, but I was like, I mean, when you just say it out loud, it's like, okay, I mean, this is sort of, whatever, this is kind of corny, but I am just, for anyone who's listening to the whole episode, this is like a fucking like ultimate moment for this band in their original inception. Like this is the and it makes so much sense, and it is really fucking impactful. Just listen to the track, listen to the last half of it.
And like we've said, like, it's kind of juvenile, right? Like, it's a little bit, in 2021, it's a little bit eye-rolly if you take it out of context. But in context, when they're saying, hey, it's 1995, and we're specifically trying to reach 14 to 15-year-old, teenage young queer people, basically, who have no role models, who are told by society that they are, awful and don't deserve to be happy, that, hey, no, actually, no, you do deserve to be happy. And instead of like going through academic reasons or anything, they're just saying, no, fuck that. And just saying, hey, specifically, don't kill yourself, please. Like,
yeah,
don't kill yourself. And it's an extremely simple line. But if you're 15 years old in 1995,
and gay, which is unfortunate at the time.
Yeah,
like an unfortunate set of circumstances to say the least. Anyway,
then there's absolutely a large number of people who need to hear what is being said in this song, which I think is awesome, and especially because they haven't stopped one bit in all of this time and are still freaking awesome.
There's no reason to stop.
This isn't the only song. Yeah, and this isn't the only song on this record that makes me feel so.
I wish they would come out with a new album. A lot of the time has passed.
I'm pretty sure there's a new single out on their Bandcamp.
There is a new single out.
Nice.
Yep.
But I
a pretty cool ass looking B-shirt.
I haven't even mentioned Uncle Frank, Don't Try Suicide, To the Enemies of Political Rock. Yes, I am.
By the way, To the Enemies of Political Rock is a good song. I like the topically least favorite song. Just getting that in. Anyway.
So good, though. It's so good.
It's my least favorite of the bunch. I'm sorry.
The album is consistent, I think. I think it's pretty consistent throughout.
It's not, there's not a skip.
There are just a few songs that are just so powerful lyrically that elevate them to...
Like, it reminds me of Embracism, that by the time I get to the final leg of the album, like the final 3 songs, I am in monkey mode. Like, I am in full on, like, me enjoy banana. Like, that is, because it's fucking good. It's a incredible set of last few songs. Like that few albums have. Yeah, 8, decent 8. It's great. It's improvement on all fronts.
Absolutely.
It was so fucking good that I appreciate the first one more.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, great record.
Light
great
8.
Record.
I think it's better than the first one. I just goddamn happy I can hear the vocalist. That's really all I can.
He doesn't get it. And that is why his 8 is light and mine is decent.
Strong 10.
What?
Whoa.
Really?
Oh my
Get
God.
Get out of here. Didn't see that
I'm
coming.
shocked.
Yeah.
Really? You didn't see that coming?
I'm glad
June,
I wasn't
you fucking
big head.
Twig. Of course I saw that coming.
Twig. Moving on.
So the album I picked is the 3rd studio album by Bad Religion. Now, off the show, we've each listened to the first 3 albums. For the show, the last time we talked about them, we did.
You mean the first 2, or the first one? Just the first one.
Right. I guess I'm just counting this 3rd one because we've listened. So
we did the debut because we knew you wanted to do the second one for Overhated.
Exactly.
Which is an episode that ended up being extremely fucking cursed.
Yeah. So the last time we talked about by Bad Religion was their infamous sophomore release, Into the Unknown. The band's deep dive into prog rock and new wave. An experiment that is still being felt decades later by the band, who
now
still will
not.
They still won't re-release it. They still won't acknowledge its existence.
It's not even on Spotify. Like it's dead, like it's not anywhere.
What were you saying, Brian?
I love that now that we've had more time and now that we've listened to this, I just say right off the bat, the second album is even more confusing now to me. Like it's now, now I'm kind of on the side of like the majority of people. I'm like, what the fuck were they thinking?
I actually think it makes sense. I think it makes more sense now. I'm gonna be honest, it does make more sense.
This is I feel like we're talking about Twin Peaks because we're
no, I'll talk about why it makes more sense when we get into it.
When they released Into the Unknown, personally, I really love the record. I think it gets way too much hate, and I think even the band needs to, grow some balls and acknowledge that it exists and it happened.
Oh, shit.
They got just slammed by the punk community. Absolutely fucking eviscerated by the punk community. So they took some time away and didn't release another project.
A couple of years.
Give me a second. Didn't release.
There was enough years to be like they might have.
5 years later, they released their 3rd studio album, Suffer. Return to form. So we've talked about a few artists that have had amazing comebacks. The one that comes to mind the most right now is Andrew WK. Had a bit of a slump and just came back with a fucking vengeance with You're Not Alone. Well, Bad Religion not only came back with a fucking vengeance, but decided to pioneer not one, but 2 fucking genres of music while doing it with one of their biggest records, Suffer. Melodic hardcore, skate punk, which is kind of amazing because some of the elements on this record were dabbled with into the unknown. Without that record,
what year was Suffer released? Fuck.
1988.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. I was like, whoa.
So yeah, melodic hardcore and skate punk were
because this is not like a typical punk record. No, I mean,
Yeah.
it isn't, but like this isn't like 70s
solos,
punk.
harmonies, it's stuff you would never see in like your typical hardcore punk, which is what makes them as
Honestly,
a band stick out in the big punk bands.
This is I don't know when did post-hardcore started in like the 80s, I want to say, so that they're not super they're not super ahead of the curve on that.
Yeah, but melodic hardcore
and
skate punk were one of the bands to pioneer them was Bad Religion, and June's kind of onto something because the harmonies that are on that album show up on this. It's one of the most defining characteristics of the band, and without Into the Unknown, we might not have had them.
That's true. I didn't even fucking think about that.
Because Into the Unknown shows a band that is becoming a lot more interested in more complex musical arrangements, in more complex melodies, and
bigger words,
in melodies in general. And rather than straight up aggression like you get in the first record, which is a much more early 80s hardcore record. And it's still great. I actually still love the first record. But you take the first record, you take the second record and you smush them together, and then you basically remove any prog influence at all. And you've got Suffer. It makes sense. If it's the band saying we want to do punk, but we want to stick with the catchy melodies and stick with the pop songwriting aspect rather than the hardcore.
Right. So what we have here is 26 minutes of just straight, high flying, high energy, no bullshit. And I understand why it's like this. I have a hang up that I'll get on to later.
15 tracks, by the way.
15 tracks, high speed, no breaks, no change ups, the same shit the whole way.
Dude, no. Hold on. I take umbrage with that. Every song is unique. Do you know how fucking hard that is to do? 15 tracks. One of them is 3 minutes. Like, it is a feat how catchy this record is. Holy shit.
The reason there's like no... So one of my biggest hangups, I'll just get this out of the way, is that I wish there was more variety in just some aspect, but I understand why there isn't. They had to prove themselves. They dropped one of the biggest stinkers in punk history 5 years ago, so they had to come back and not mess around. So I understand why there's no bullshit, no experimentation. It's just the same shit for 26 minutes.
I just love
it's great.
Like that you two are like, you know what? I love seeing the different conclusions of all. You two have kind of come to like, no, the second album, and I agree to an extent actually now that you've said it. The second album is necessary to get to this one. It's not that bad of an album, but like my reaction is like, now that I've heard this, fuck the second album. Like, whoa, where was this fucking band? Because the debut, I don't want to talk about the debut too much. I think it's cool. It's all right. It's a cool punk record. Like, love the attitude. Some great songs on it. Overall cool. Nothing too memorable. It's like a sailboat. This thing is like this is like the ship that Columbus discovered in America. And it's a much bigger, more capable boat.
Whoa. The ship that Columbus discovered.
I've got some issues.
Wait, what? What's wrong with it?
That's an ahistorical statement, I believe.
Listen here, School of Rock. You need to get your facts straight.
No. I'm pretty sure he found America and like is the reason, I think he did that, if I recall right.
And he didn't do anything wrong when he went on the island.
As far as I know, I don't think there was any.
Didn't do anything
like people
wrong.
mention atrocities. I can't find anything. I don't look anything up.
I'm in this history book right now, flipping through the pages, and I don't even know what that word means.
Chaz, that's a picture book of Columbus. That's just pictures of Columbus.
I don't know why I have this.
Yeah. Anyway.
For the record, to clear up any confusion, fuck Christopher Columbus, but continue.
But thank God for Christopher Columbus Day, statement. So we don't have to go to work.
How about this?
Clarifying, you dumbass.
No. I think, he's a great Italian figure. Anyway.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Anyway.
Continue, Brian.
Yeah, I don't know. This thing is like, I feel like this is the first album of theirs that I've heard that's like, all right, here we go. Here's this band's identity. Like you said, there was like a return to form. And like I said, fuck that. Like this is like the form is found. Yeah. Right? Like they found the style. They had this great melodic, like you all said, that was on Into the Unknown. But now that they're putting it with the punk sound that they did really well on the first album, it's like, here you go. Here's this band fully fucking formed.
Yeah,
Not a bad song.
This is the band's identity.
And the attitudes are the same. Like they're still really pretty nihilistic and kind of, life
but
is
it's just so matured.
Kind of
I mean, Greg's vocals are fucking amazing on this. It's like 2 albums. He had it, but it wasn't quite there yet. And we finally see the potential of his vocal abilities on this album. The harmonies are tight. Yeah. And his lyrics. I mean, his lyrics are so PhD. I don't know
how very honestly, you know what it reminds me of now that I just thought this? Aesop Rock. It fucking reminds me of Aesop Rock because he just deliberately chooses so many different words.
Yeah.
Like he's purposely going out of his way to be very I mean they get called thesaurus rock all the time, which is hilarious by the way.
You get like a semblance that like he's this preacher on a soapbox just shouting out to the world,
But he's definitely a young white college kid. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, this and
he's literally like a better version of Fritz the Cat in that one scene where he's like talking about the thumb on the proletariat, and he has no idea what that fucking means. If you get that reference, you're a real one.
Thematically, it's very he's talking about like the pitfalls of consumerism, but like there's something about this that doesn't feel like a college kid, because like with some punk bands and like art punk bands or like punk bands that are shockingly some of them are political, I don't know if you knew that, something about this one feels very like everyman. Doesn't like there are lines alluding to like businessmen run the world or anything, but then in that same song he's like, don't you see he's just like you, just as pointless, basically. It definitely feels more like, I don't know, something like very blue collar about it. I can't fucking explain it, but there's this quality that separates it from like Minutemen or, Dead Kennedys, even because topically they're kind of in the same realm. But I feel like with Bad Religion, they're kind of doing it from the perspective of just like Jane or John Doe. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't feel like their opinions. It feels like it feels like just omniscient observations almost. Not to say that they're completely right, but it's kind of hard to quantify. But it doesn't feel necessarily personal on most of the songs here.
I've been on record saying that I don't really like or the idea of the genre melodic hardcore. I think it's a tough genre to do right, and I'm glad to see that the roots are in Bad Religion because their harmonies just work so well with these just distorted fast punk riffs. I mean, it really is a great sound. But the skate punk vibes on this are also, I've literally determined that if you can see yourself playing Tony Hawk to this, it's skate punk. Like that is the determining factor.
Skate punk is less defined by the bands that were playing it, more defined by the scenes that took to it, right? That's what it seems to be the case.
Well, the biggest skate punk band is the Descendants with Milo Goes to College, which has a very different sound than this because it doesn't have the melodic hardcore elements. That's more just straight hardcore punk. It's similar to queercore. It was more about the scene than the
skate punk is like a banner genre. It doesn't necessarily define this because they're different. Like Minor Threat, right, to an extent would be considered fucking skate punk, and maybe lesser than them, maybe like Black Flag, but they're very different to like Bad Religion. It's my understanding,
right?
I don't know if they'd be skate punk. Skate punk is more of a late 80s 90s thing than it is a Black Flag. Black Flag is more just straight up hardcore.
Yeah, they were like one of the big hardcore.
Same with Minor Threat.
So before I let anybody else go, I love this record. It's not my favorite Bad Religion record, but I think it's a great one to start with. I think this is the best one to start with because the debut, while great, the production's not quite there. Greg's vocals aren't quite there.
Songwriting's not quite there.
The second one, it all depends on the kind of person you are if you're gonna like that one. And then the third one,
you might be June.
This is similar to Janet Jackson's. Like this is the debut. This is the pure, because this is what they are known for, the melodic hardcore skate punk sound that would define their long-lasting career. I mean, the 2 albums after this on Rim are the bolded ones. I mean, think about that. And they're just getting started on this one with Suffer. So I think it's just a great release. My biggest hangups with it are that it's short. Yeah, it's consistent. I just wish there was variety, but in hindsight, it makes perfect sense why there isn't. They couldn't fuck around. Like, we had to show that we knew what we were doing and that we could do it well. And I think the lyrics are great, but a little too cryptic for my taste. I feel like...
Ooh, I think they're just wordy. I don't know if they're so
not wordy. I think what's great about them is that you could find meaning in them for like you could put your own issue or scenario in what it's about. It's not like spelled out for you. But it's
I think they make a lot of broad statements.
Exactly.
Really
yeah.
What it is,
yeah.
You know?
And sometimes I'm a fan of that. Sometimes I'm not. I like Bad Religion at their best when they're specifically hitting a topic.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like they don't really necessarily dig into any one thing. The whole album is basically.
But again,
you could
argue that's because they couldn't fuck around. We had to just keep it tight and succinct, not branch out too much.
But also.
We didn't want to take any risks.
In that same breath, though, the tracks that Do What You Want What Can You Do and Do What You Want are kind of like summing up everything before them in those two tracks, and then because it plays out right after those songs, more or less. So I don't know. You could read it that way too, like them kind of summarizing their feelings. Because I feel like Do What You Want is the affirming, uplifting version of What Can You Do and Suffer and like everything before it. Because the whole album topically is kind of like I mean, it's called Suffer. Like and the song Suffer says, humanity has always been born to suffer. It's the song like 1,000 More Fools is really like maybe the most misanthropic song on the whole thing, where he's 1,000 fucking fools are born every day.
Brian,
and compares how humans breed to like how farm animals breed,
What's your favorite song and why is it Delirium of Disorder?
I do. That is one of my favorites. I'll tell you why I like Delirium. It's not my favorite. It's just a nice change of pace with the weird lead-in vocals.
Best harmony. Best fucking harmony.
I don't know, dude. I love Give You Nothing. That is straight up one of my favorite
I give you
ever.
nothing.
Dude, that fucking You're a Sidewalk, Cyber Speed, Big Power and a Drive. That fucking part is so... there's so many just amazing vocal moments on that one. Chorus is killer. 2 minutes. Oh, dude. The bridge on that song, like I don't remember the words. And that part is fucking every time that part kicks in. We need to use the term monkey brain more. There just isn't a better term for like you go from like listening, and this is gonna be a very visual joke, but you're like listening to something and you're liking it, and you're also thinking about it. You're like, okay, you might be gazing out, but then the good part comes. Like grunt face, like head bobbing, like like banana, fucking awesome. Shout out Corey. Corey's a huge Bad Religion fan, but technically Chaz gets credit for introducing them to us. 1,000 More Fools is a song he said was one of his favorites, and I liked it cool, but man, I just like that third, fourth, or fifth, whatever listen, I was like, this fucking song is amazing. Duffer is an amazing song. I love the 1-2 punch of What You Can Do and Do What You Want. And Delirium of Disorder, those are like my favorite songs. Oh, dude, Do What You Want has like this amazing fucking verse in it where it's don't know if the billions will survive, but I'll believe in God when 1 and 1 are 5. My moniker is man, I'm rotten to the core. I'll tear down the building to pass through the door. It's the most fucking kick-ass shit I've ever heard in my fucking life. Because also it's all like it's kick-ass and banana me like, right? But like also it's like, wow, humans are destructive and will do anything to get what they want, So very sad white college kid vibes. Anyway.
So June, you haven't had time to talk a little bit, so give some of your thoughts.
I like Land of Competition for criticizing the scene and basically saying like, I don't know, like
they were probably pissed about how they got just destroyed by the mob of that is punk rock for Into the Unknown.
I'm just talking about the difficulty of existing in the land of competition, the music scene. Suffer's a great track. Give You Nothing is a great track.
Fucking incredible song.
It's basically a great record through and through. One that I don't personally have a huge attachment to, but it's a super consistent, super catchy, really well played. And like Brian said, the songs here are memorable on their own despite a lot of them only being 2 minutes long. And it being a 15-track record at less than 30 minutes. Reading through a track list, it's I remember these choruses. They're just really good at writing memorable vocal lines and catchy choruses that are earwormy, but they're not irritating.
I know this is gonna sound maybe kind of stupid, but the words they use are quite big, and so the way they work those into the songs only adds another unique layer to them. You know what I mean? Just the line I was talking about on Give You Nothing, or where he's you're a jumbled atom, you're just a jumbled atom man with nothing to say or something like that. Just these really artful displays of pointlessness, right? Like that's in such a way that like it becomes comforting almost in its misanthropy, because it's just like, hey, that was really clever though, I don't know. Fantastic. Not a lot more to say. I mean, it's classic status for a reason. It's a fucking great punk record. I don't have much more to say. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was a great record. I guess a couple things I didn't like. Just some songs that are so, like Best for You and Forbidden Beat is another one that I'm not crazy about. Land of Consequences,
I love Forbidden Beat.
Land of Consequences topically, I like Where They Go. They don't really do that again on the record, but it's another song that just, to me, is like outshone by like my absolute favorite highlights. But there's a lot of highlights here. There's a lot to love about this album. So it was a super easy listen. It's got classic status, so I guess it's an easy pick in that regard. But we've done tons of shit like that, and none of us had heard it. So kind of cool. We should do this more with bands. We kind of done this in a way with Janet Jackson too, right? With kind of listening to one album, like where it started, and then going to the most acclaimed one or one of the more acclaimed ones. It's even if it's someone like, I don't know, Bob Dylan or some shit, like, going through a bunch of different records of theirs and just getting reactions of people who haven't heard is just as valuable as, finding some obscure shit, right? So anyway, that's my little tirade done. I'd go with like a decent, strong 8. Fuck, great punk record.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a decent 8. I just have a few hangups with it, but I mean, it's solid as hell. Gave us 2 great genres of punk, and just overall is awesome. And I still love Into the Unknown, so I win in the end, like I always do.
I'm going to give us a light to decent 8. It was a really strong record. Yeah, 8s all around.
Okay, yeah, we're doing Janet Jackson again for my sequel episode. We did her
1986, I believe.
I think that's right. Where she teamed up with famed producers Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis on that album, and that was kind of her establishing point because her first 2 records didn't do so well, but then Control landed, was a hit. I think we all liked it pretty well, including our illustrious guest.
I thought it was great.
Tom Hummer was here. He thought it was good too. And, I kind of wanted to do Rhythm Nation first and then do this, but I hadn't heard Rhythm Nation, and I know I love Velvet Rope, so I wanted to skip right to it. Also, it was in the year I was born. It's my favorite album from the year I was born, of which I've heard 5. And so yeah,
once again, how you're just a bad music nerd.
Yeah, pretty much. And the thing about this album is, so Control is it kind of is an album of 2 halves. I feel like you get some slower, more pop oriented cuts in the back half, and then some funkier New Jack Swing stuff at the beginning. And I feel like this album does the fusion a little bit better of those 2 styles. I feel like she's a little more fully realized. It is one of my favorite album covers of all time.
It's a very different album musically, being over a decade later. Mm-hmm. Basically, the 90s have mostly happened, in late 1997. The pop trends have been set. And while
Not
the last
yet,
record had...
Because Chumbawamba's Tub Thumper hadn't released yet.
Which is, as we all know, the musical landmark for the development of anything beyond it. Anyway.
But whereas the 86 record Control had that 80s bass sound, definitely the New Jack Swing, the funk influence, the sort of dance pop. Velvet Rope definitely has the trip hop influence. The neo soul, very much more of an R&B kind of record.
But still has some New Jack Swing elements in it.
Still has the elements that Control had, but with much more
variety.
Period appropriate production.
It's definitely like the 80s, like Control is very much an 80s album. It's kind of like Speaking in Tongues, that Talking Heads record. That's the one Talking Heads records. It's like, okay, this is the 80s have affected this one. Like the 80s, like the other Talking Heads records are kind of like, yeah, these are pretty unique. And then not to say Speaking in Tongues isn't, but like it has a touch of the 80s. Control is very much an 80s album, and this one is very much a 90s record. It's a lot more laid back for the most part. Like you said, June, the fusion is more there. I think it's more artful than Control. Mm-hmm. It's important to understand that Janet had experienced an emotional breakdown around this period and was kind of depressed, and also topically is exploring we're in totally uncharted territory. As the first Control, the first album we talked about of hers, has themes of love, but it's very typical, I guess you could say, right? Not to say the songs aren't good, but the scenarios. There is a lot of this album is gay, and there's even like some like taboo sexual topics, taboo like BDSM and stuff like that kind of explored on the record too.
Which for the time was pretty out
but it's very subtle. You wouldn't even really pick up on it if you weren't looking for it, because the album is just so goddamn like catchy and just holds your attention the whole time. Every little nook and cranny is something to latch onto, be it the extremely danceable and punchy production, or Janet's very simple but artful and gorgeous vocal performances on a lot of the songs here. I just want to plug in. I fucking love the album cover on this thing. I love
it's awesome.
Like, it's such a simple color palette, but just the shot with her hair over her face and her leaning in like the just black sweater. Oh, I can't wait to see it in a video. It's maybe my favorite album cover of all time. It's fucking beautiful. The lighting and everything is just so, to me, evocative. I can't understand about what the image does to me, but when I'm looking at it, I can't stop looking at it. There's also kind of themes of domestic violence on the song What About That, I believe it's called. You know, she's topically exploring way more on this album. It's a great deal longer. It's like an hour and 13 minutes. It's pretty indulgent for a record of its style, but god damn it, this thing is just too creative and too wonderful to not be talked about. Not to say that it isn't, but we talked about SZA pretty recently, and I feel like without Janet Jackson, there's no SZA. I don't think it happens. Like, I just don't think that these
we wouldn't have Leanne LaHavis.
Oh yeah,
we wouldn't have her amazing self-titled if not for without an album like this.
I mean, I feel like there's definitely
even
like
in the album cover, Brian. Like, think about it.
It might be. I mean, it could be an homage. I don't think there's anything on that album that reminded me of this necessarily, but it could be
the album
an homage.
cover. The album.
That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying. The cover could be an homage, even though musically, I don't necessarily know if there's.
Both records have soul elements.
Neo soul.
Yeah, it's not far fetched, Chaz. You could be totally right, and I would agree to an extent. But anyway. I just want to shout out my favorite songs real quick. Let me get it out of the way like I usually do. One, there's a couple of high-profile, two like high-profile features. I put features in air quotes because Joni Mitchell is sampled on this album very famously, and Q-Tip has a great verse as well on the same song. So that's kind of an interesting tidbit here. There are some house-influenced songs on here too. It's just got so much variety. I mean, for a record this long, it is such a relief that there is a ton of variety on it. All the singles from this thing are fantastic. The Joni Mitchell song, Got Till It's Gone, which samples the chorus of her saying, you don't know what you got till it's gone, which is like a love song. I Get Lonely, which is has a beautiful vocal hook on the opening of it and on the chorus. That's one of the songs too, where like the fusion of like, I almost want to say it's like a new style of art pop. Like these genres are coming together in such a way that I feel like we are getting some very unique strain of art pop. Like that's what it feels like to me. But I don't want to, genrefying is not as important as just understanding that it's quality. Go Deep, fantastic kind of house influence cut. Holy shit, catchy, back to back with another one of my favorite songs, Free Zone. Two fantastic songs with messages that are far deeper than like on Free Zone, especially where there's that lyrical moment where it's like, till he figured out he was gay. That's so not cool. Let's get free. Like this explosion, that fucking bass, like
it reminds me of the racial message of the title track of Rhythm Nation. We are a part of the Rhythm Nation. That's a very politically charged song.
But it's so subtle too. Like that's kind of my favorite thing about it too. Is
because it's so dancey. You're too busy dancing that you're not realize you're learning something. It's like great educational television.
It's one of those things like you'd be like, I love this song so much, and you'd probably be listening to it for the 46th time, and you catch that part, you'd be like, whoa, wait, what the fuck? I hadn't heard that before.
Exactly.
Wait. What is the song really about?
This song is gay? Hold up.
Oh, wait a minute.
There's gay. Hold on, let me get my micro.
Let me get my magnifying glass.
Yeah,
I'm rambling.
Microphone.
I'm completely rambling on this album, but I love it. I love it to pieces. It's such a beautiful, gorgeous record. And the thing about this is, like, I just wish its praises were sung more. I don't know. I feel like,
are you kidding me? It's considered one of the
I know it's properly rated, even, and it gets a little retrospective credit too. But like, dude, it makes me kind of mad. Like, it's such a fantastic record. I just wish it got talked about. Like,
look, Tom Hummer gave it a 9.
No.
It's fine. It's fucking fine.
It sucks. It sucks to see her kind of pave the way for like, some more like the FKA Twigs and the SZAs a little bit, and I just feel a little disappointed that her legacy hasn't lasted because she was obviously very famous at the time, but like. It just like I don't understand.
When you're
why
the
we're
sister to Michael Jackson, I mean, you're always going to be in a shadow. I think
there's that, but there's also the fact that when people mention Janet Jackson, it's like, oh, there's nip slip.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting that happened to her. Yeah, that's her legacy. Like literally, that's all everybody talks about. Is that
it's so fucking disappointing,
most sexist bullshit. Like it's so fucking stupid.
Look, that's on Timberlake. I'm not saying he's a bad part, but he fucked up. That's his bad. He probably knows it.
Well,
anyway.
He got his comeuppance because he was in the fucking Trolls movie.
Yeah, that's true. Also, he's in that really weird music video with that robot. So Justin has remained. He's cringe. I'm sorry, Justin. You're probably a good guy, but you were cringe.
Now,
he can't be
NSYNC is awesome.
Like Mac DeMarco is sexier than you, and he's gross. He stuck his thumb up his ass that one time and licked it. Like that's disgusting, and he's cooler than you and sexier is also true.
Anyway.
Mac DeMarco is sexy. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so. And like yeah, I think so.
Maybe like my cousin's not too ugly kind of way,
He's holy fuck. Oh, okay. You didn't have to shit on Mac DeMarco that hard. That's fucked up, Chaz. Holy shit.
Mac DeMarco is like if Jeff Rosenstock wasn't good.
Woo. You mean like aesthetically, like visually?
No, all counts.
Just all of it? Okay, yeah.
I'm not a Mac DeMarco fan. I
agree with this. This is a great take from Chaz.
Anyway, let me talk about let me talk about Janet Jackson's Velvet Rope. All right.
Yeah, I just want to apologize for my little ramble. I just love this album. It's one of those ones that is like perfect to talk about for the show because my picks that I come through with that are my favorites of mine are albums I've heard about 1 billion times before I bring them to the show, and then 8 months pass and I bring them to the show and I'm like, oh, it's even fucking better if I can remember. Gorgeous. Hey, go ahead. I'm muting myself. I'm out of here.
This is a fucking behemoth. The biggest issue I have is that it's too fucking long.
I would actually agree.
It is too long. What saves it, though, is how fucking consistent it is. Through the entire runtime, there's not a weak song. And again, this is just my issue with Janet Jackson as an artist. She just loves 5+ minute songs. She just can't get over it. She does not fuck
around, does she? She does not she is like, this song is sick because to be fair, these are 5-minute grooves, like pretty much across the board.
June's point about that on Control made more sense because that's a full New Jack Swing, which was a dance type of genre. Here, we've got way different more genres, and it's more of an artistic flair. There's no excuse. These are not meant to be danced to in the club, I don't think. So I really don't see why like half of these songs need to be the length that they are. Despite them being great songs.
Part of the package.
It's just part of Janet Jackson's thing. You can't be upset about it because she's consistent with it. Yeah. Quality songs, but damn, Janet.
Why is "Go Deep" your favorite song? Why is "Go Deep" your favorite song?
"Go Deep" is not my favorite song. I'll get to my favorite song in a minute. I'll get.
Can you talk about "Go Deep"?
Sing the melody for that one real quick.
We go deep, so deep, don't get no sleep.
Yeah, that song slaps. Yeah, slaps.
Until the early light.
The production.
Is it on key? Is that on key?
Our boys from Control are back on production credits again.
Fucking Jimmy Jam with the peanut butter slam. Holy fuck, this shit is delicious.
They are awesome.
Terry Lewis, whose name is way less interesting.
Yeah. They and Janet make such a great team, and the production on here is so vibrant. It is so fascinatingly intricate and keeps things fresh through the entire hour and 15 runtime. It never gets stale. I mean, it is a masterfully made album.
She is so goddamn promiscuous on this record.
But the lyrics, okay. It's better than Control, but by a little bit. And the reason I think it beats Control by the amount it does is because of the lyrics. My biggest gripe with Control was that the first half lyrically was pretty great, and then the second half is just standard R&B, which just does not interest me that much. Here, though, not only do we get great LGBTQ plus songs, lifting them up and saying like, "Hey, it's cool, nothing like let's get free." Awesome. But also, she's a bit of a horny thing on this album, and it's awesome. She's like, "Tie me up." And you don't get any of that on Control. You don't get any of that. She is so flirty, confident. It's the best. Can
you say that again? How do I clip just that sound for the rest of my life?
There's hints of it on Control with like the pleasure principle, but that song's still pretty tame compared to everything on here. She is confident. She is sexy. She is so quirky, so fun. I absolutely love. We're gonna
put her on a billboard.
I love the lyrics on this thing. They're so great. But then you got songs like "What About That," which are just this big fuck you to this jerk sheet that wanted to marry her but was completely abusive to her.
Dude, fuck! It's an intense song.
The guitars on that are amazing. When I hear Janet say "fuck," I kind of like get scared. I'm like, whoa! I'm not
okay. I'm like, Janet is swearing. Like, what is going on? My mom is so angry.
Got Till It's Gone.
Not like a mommy thing, like my...
Yeah. Go Deep, like Free Zone, Empty.
But not like...
Every Time the Piano Ballad song?
Every Time is one of those, yeah. There's a couple of those in the back half that I actually kind of have a hard time
differentiating. That's the weakest track. It has its fans, and I understand it because it is a catchy song, but we did not need a really sappy 90s piano ballad. We did not need that on this, I don't think, anyway.
My favorite track on this record is actually one of the ballads, and it's Empty. Empty is just such a beautiful song, and the instrumentation is like shattering glass, but like if glass was soft and pillowy.
However, then there's that one song, Together Again. Not only the best song on this album, but the greatest song ever made. That song Tribute by Tenacious D, this is the song they're talking about. This song is the greatest song ever conceived. Of all time. It goes up against Money by Pink Floyd, Bop by Hanson, Ocean Man by Ween. It tramples all of them.
I don't know if it's better than Ocean Man. That's your list?
Man.
So... why is this song the greatest song ever made? Let me tell you.
Can you go over that list one more time? Bop, Money,
and Bop, and Ocean Man.
I mean, Gig in the Sky is better than Money. Money's kind of awesome. It's true.
So why is Together Again the greatest song ever made? Well, for a couple of reasons. One, that goddamn melody. That goddamn melody is so powerful. The lyrical content. On the surface, it might seem like a standard lovey-dovey song. However, it was written against the AIDS crisis and how a lot of people were being discriminated because they may or may not have had that awful disease. I mean, it was such a horrifying time. And Janet was like, fuck that. We got to treat people with some respect and help them. Who cares if they're gay or lesbian? We've got to help them. And you have this Boots and Cats basic house beat
on the fucking floor, baby.
Amazing with that piano, that cheesy piano. It's the greatest song ever made.
And that's the thing, like the way you're talking about that song is kind of how the whole album runs. Like this is Together Again is a love song, but not like a couple, like it's a very platonic, like I missed my dead loved ones. Like it's very emotional, but also you're like it has both those qualities. It's deceptive. It is so smart in that regard.
Easily my favorite song. I mean, the first time I heard that, and it was fate because the day out, the right after I heard this album for the first time, me and my fiance went to go grocery shopping, and the fucking song was playing on the speakers in Food City. I mean, you cannot make this shit up. Literally was playing. I was like, there it is.
And she's just tapped into so much I
just wish it wasn't so long because I love the back half is the best part. Like from fucking Tonight's the Night to the end is amazing.
I don't know,
but I'm tuning out because I'm so drained from this runtime.
I think it also is like there's so many sticky and memorable hooks and like disco, so many catchy tracks that when you do get to the ballads, like you're almost taken aback a little bit. Like towards the back half, there's a couple of ballads like kind of sandwiched together. There's like I Get Lonely is in between Tonight's the Night and Rope Burn. Both are which, if I'm recalling correctly, like are more ballad or slower. They're not the catchiest songs on the record. And then Anything is another one that's technically closes out the record if it weren't for the special the bonus track special, which is like a fucking 8-minute long monster. But it's a really good song too. So I get what you're saying, Chaz, a little bit, because when you get to those songs by the back end of it,
I love them, but it's like
look,
it's
man,
such a conflicting.
I fucking threw my back out on Go Deep. Like that was like 7 or 8 tracks ago. I'm fucked up.
Right.
Like
June, give your spiel. We've been overpowering this podcast.
Me and
today.
Chaz clearly have no way to. There are no coherent thoughts. We just love it too much.
I'm in agreement with the both of you. I'm just kind of sleepy, so I've been kind of a little bit quieter during this conversation. But everything that you all have said about Janet herself on this record, I think is absolutely true. One thing that I do want to mention, that's already been mentioned, but I just want to highlight even more, is the variety. Because there is so many different styles.
In lyrics too. The variety is so strong.
There's just a lot going on here. And I think as me and Brian were talking before, I don't remember when, about this record, and you were saying that it doesn't get enough credit for being as just experimental as it is sometimes.
So fusion oriented. Like there's so much, like I was saying, I mean, I don't know, you could just kind of hear it in my words kind of spoke for me without making, I made the point without making it kind of thing. Like there's disco, there's house, there's R&B, there's soul, there's funk. And it's like every single one of those genres, I feel like has some little pocket on one of these songs. If it's in a bass line, the drumming, I mean, even like, what about, I mean, not, once you kind of look past, the lyrics, which kind of take front and center, like you realize like, wow, listen to this fucking song. Listen how quiet the verses are and listen how it explodes on the
Spanish guitar is so great.
There's some folky influences on here, like 100%. I think, not just with like the Joni Mitchell sample either. I think even on the song, What About, and some of the, like there's some acoustic guitars that are on a couple of the songs here. I can't recall off the top of my head what they were immediately, but that it really is like when I look at albums from 1997 and what is generally praised in like the music head circles, Portishead, Ween, Modest Mouse.
And there was 1997 had a lot of amazing records come out.
Yeah,
and I mean,
born, not to say, and the 90s
the
90s were great.
Yeah,
and you were born. I was born, dude. High five.
Born too.
Sick. All right, I don't know what we did too. I mean, Blur, like talking about specifically 97, just kind of scrolling through records released that year. Foo Fighters, Pavement, Sleater Kinney, Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan even released a fucking album in 97 that was critically acclaimed and was like a return to form for him. Like there was a ton of shit. And like, I get really fucking wound up that I feel like Janet Jackson's just not in that fucking discussion in music nerd circles. I thought, or is severely undercredited. Like I don't know. It's just such, and for a mainstream pop album too. I mean, people fucking love when Kanye West says his asshole is bleached or whatever the fuck. Like, and not to say he's not bold in his own way, but like, come on, like this is extremely bold. Like you don't have to be, I think this is just, there's more than one way to be out of the box, right? Like there's a couple sides you can escape from. And I just don't think you have to come bursting out of the fucking top with this loud, aggressive sound. Like look at Janet here. It's such a beautiful, subdued, it speaks for itself. And I just wish more people, but I feel like we're at a point where I feel like I want people to be speaking for it because it's just such an incredible record. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I have a lot of love for it personally. And I don't know what else to say about it, honestly. I just wish it were like, I think it is on the level of like a fucking Lonesome Crowded West. Like, another album that's critically, it is an amazing album, by the way. Like that's out that same year. I don't know why they're not discussed like they're on the same level because I think they fucking are. I just think it's that fucking good to kind of, feel like more people are maybe more familiar with Lonesome Crowded, so that's a way to frame it.
Part of it is that indie music nerds on the internet are a lot more invested in rock.
It's cool. Like I get it. It's fine. Like, cause that same community, has a pretty deep appreciation for jazz a lot of time, it seems like too. But I feel like
it's different parts of different communities.
Yeah, some stuff just gets overlooked. I just feel like this is one of those albums that I wish was fucking sung, praises were sung to the end of the earth because I just think it's so goddamn special,
What do you give it, Brian?
Anyway, I go with like a strong 8 to a light 9. Fantastic record.
I'm gonna go with a decent 8. It's just the length. You can't have it any shorter, but why does it need to be? It's got its flaws. Yeah,
I would agree. It's got its flaws a little bit. But that's probably my biggest complaint too. But overall, man, you would be hard pressed to find a better pop record for me, to be honest. Or I get, funk soul, whatever this fucking record is. You'd be hard pressed to find one with this much variety and beauty. And June, give it a number. I gotta stop.
Decent 8. I think it's great. I agree kind of with Chaz. The length can make you get a little tired by the end of it, but the variety and everything, like, it's almost a non-issue. I think that if I had more time with it, like, reach out to me in a year.
That's been this episode. Brian talks about Janet Jackson for 40 minutes, why she's underappreciated, but can't really articulate it because he feels emotionally. Next time we're just doing a regular episode. Kind of pick whatever. Now I've got some. Look, I have sinned. I've been mean to Chaz. He has hurt me, but my rebuttal, my rebuke was too strong. My hand too swift and my axe too sharp. So it's time for Chaz Appreciation Week, where I just pick things to pop Chaz. And
you're gonna pop Chaz?
I'm gonna pop it. It's a wrestling thing, not a sex thing. It could be a sex thing.
It could be if Chaz wants it to be. So.
It can be whatever Chaz wants it to be. So we're going to start Chaz Appreciation Week with a pick I've been meaning to get to for fucking ever because I know Chaz will love this shit. And by the way, Chaz Appreciation Week is even if me and June have heard it, pick it. Doesn't matter. It's about Chaz.
Okay.
We're going to do everything, get to heaven.
Okay, yeah.
Pop record, the best pop record.
However, are the lyrics creepy as shit? Like Alex Cameron? No. Okay, good.
No. This is Chaz Appreciation Week, not Brian treacherously tries to explain why Alex Cameron is a genius week. This is we're not in difficult territory with this album. This is just for you, buddy. What might work for Chaz, but this is a sure. Me and June talked about this one like back in season 1. We should talk about this fucking record because you'd love it. So That's my pick.
So in spirit of that, I have a pick that has been meaning to be talked about since season 1 myself. I'm bringing it way back to all the Wheezy Waiter fans out there with
my gosh.
Driftless Pony Club and their album Buckminster.
Really? Wow.
An indie rock concept album about American architect Buckminster Fuller. Should be really exciting.
Okay. Like Wheezy Waiter, I've never listened to his music. I know that he likes Built to Spill and Modest Mouse. So those are like, that's some good reference points. So I'm guessing that we're going to get some nerdy, kind of wordy Gen X indie rock. And I'm okay with that. That's usually not a bad thing. For me, I'm going to go super online music nerd and choose a YouTube algorithm core record.
Oh, shit. That stuff really slaps, though, sometimes.
Yeah, and it's going to be Hiroshi Yoshimura's Wave Notation 1, Music for 9 Postcards. It's an ambient and new age album.
It's Japanese, right?
Yeah.
It's Japanese, sure. Yeah, this shit, dude. Okay, time to talk about. We need to delve into some of the Japanese YouTube cores. Some of that shit is real good.
I kinda have a city pop pick coming our way at some point.
Dude.
Yeah, I've got a city pop coming your way. So
finally, the show hits its golden age. This has been Unwarranted Music Opinions. I was Brian Courtney and still am, and I was joined by Chaz Jenkins.
Oh, Brian.
And June Lindbergh.
Goodbye.
And next time, we'll see you. All right, goodbye.